The Edge Impulse documentation is a great resource for developers using the platform. In today's episode of Edge Impulse Explained, I'm going to walk you through the documentation site so that you have a better idea of where to find the information that you need. If you head over to docs.edgeimpulse.com, you'll land in our documentation. The first page that you see is a part of the Knowledge tab. It's in this section where you'll find some overview information about Edge Impulse. There are a number of guides, including our Getting Started guides, so for beginners, embedded engineers, and machine learning practitioners. There are some concept articles that give you general information about Edge AI and the concepts associated with it. There is a metrics section. Here we provide some definitions of metrics that are used to evaluate Edge AI models. And then at the bottom, there is a courses section. It's here where you'll find some links to Coursera courses that we've created, and also a course that's embedded directly into the documentation. The next tab that you come across is the Studio tab. Studio is our browser-based interface for interacting with the platform. It provides a visual way to develop your machine learning pipeline. It's broken into two sections. So there is a project section, and that's where you do your ML pipeline development. And then there is an organization section. So if you're a part of the enterprise tier, you'll have an organization, and this is where you find more information about that. This is followed up by the hardware tab. This section talks about hardware that is fully supported by Edge Impulse. Something to point out though is that if your target hardware is not listed here, it doesn't mean that Edge Impulse doesn't work with your hardware. Edge Impulse can run on any hardware that compiles C++ and more. Don't let that stress you out if you don't see your desired hardware here. These are just examples that are fully supported. The hardware section is broken into a couple different areas. Devices being devices that are fully enclosed. There are boards, which are exposed PCBs, development kits, evaluation kits, and the like. That's broken down into a few categories of boards. And this is also where you'll find the information on the deployments that are available in Edge Impulse. So our default is a C++ library, but we have all sorts of other packages and libraries depending on how you're developing. Moving along, we get to the Tools tab. In the Tools tab, we talk about our CLIs. So there's the general Edge Impulse CLI, and then there's our Linux CLI. There are a number of SDKs, including the C++ library and our Linux SDK. We talk about the Python SDK, our Python API bindings, and then there's some information about specifications and protocols that you may come across while developing an Edge Impulse. After that is the APIs tab, and this is the core of Edge Impulse. So Edge Impulse is a set of currently 3 different APIs. There is what we call the Studio API, and that is the main API for the platform. There's also an ingestion API, which is what you use to upload data to the platform, and then a remote management API for communicating with devices remotely from the platform. All of the Studio API endpoints are listed here. You can look at each endpoint. There's ways to try it out, so you can actually send the request and test it right here in our documentation, which is a super cool feature. After that, we get into the example section of the documentation. So we have the tutorials tab, and there are a ton of tutorials. There's end-to-end, which goes right from data collection to deployment. There are other tutorials which are topic specific. These are usually smaller and focusing on a specific feature. There are tool tutorials. These are related to how to use the API, the Python API bindings. There's some examples on the Python SDK. And then there's a couple of examples on how to integrate with some other platforms. This is followed up by projects. On the projects tab, we have a large list of projects that were developed by experts in our expert network. These are great if you want to take a look at a complete project of how they've done everything from collecting data to 3D printing enclosures or other accessories needed to coding for the program that actually goes on the device. Really good resource to also get some ideas of what you can do with Edge AI. And then lastly, there is the dataset section. So in this tab is some data sets that were created by employees at Edge Impulse. They give you a way to get started with a project. Say you don't have any data, you can come to the Datasets tab. You can look at the type of data that you want, whether that's image data, audio, or time series data. And you can use this to get started with a project and to get started easily without needing to go out and collect your own data, because we know data is costly to collect and it's time consuming. So this gives you a jump start and a way to evaluate the platform and test out some projects. Okay, I hope that was a useful overview. As always with these videos, if there's anything about the platform that you want to have explained, let us know down in the comments and we'll be happy to do that in a future video. And that's it for now. We'll see you in the next one.